over to the Plaid team for class, and I've started recording. Thank you.
Awesome. Hey, everybody. Thanks for that great introduction, Kelly. So welcome to our class today. As you all know, today we are going to be creating this super cute pumpkin patch sign using a couple of our favorite products here at Plaid. We are going to be using FolkArt Paint and FolkArt Sign Shop. So if you haven't heard anything about FolkArt Sign Shop, it is a fairly new program that is exclusive to Michaels, and it is a mesh stencil that has a grid system. So it makes stenciling super easy. If you guys have ever had trouble with stenciling before, then I assure you this will make your life a lot easier. And I want to remind you guys too, before we get started, Stephen, of course, is here. So if you have any questions for me or for Stephen about the product or the technique or anything, then please feel free to message in the comment section and Stephen can relay those questions to me. So let's go ahead, you guys, and start off by just going over all the supplies that you're going to need to follow along with me today. And if you don't have anything today, right now, then obviously you can feel free to watch this because it is being recorded on Michael's webpage or on their YouTube channel, and then watch it at your own leisure once you have the supplies with you. So today we are going to need some black FolkArt paint, orange FolkArt paint, and white FolkArt paint. You don't need a whole lot of paint for today's class. We're going to keep it pretty simple. Next, you're of course going to need your FolkArt Sign Shop stencils, which of course you can get at Michael's. As you can see, we have this really cute framed sign, a wooden sign that is available at Michael's. That is a really great option. And for today's class, we wanted to switch it up a little bit and show you a different way you can do it from this wood palette. So we're going to be working with this today, but I'm going to go over all the different techniques that you'll need to know to do both. I always like to have some stencil tape or washi tape, any type of low tack adhesive when I stencil. It just helps for alignment, and it helps, you know, if these are adhesive stencils, so we don't really have to worry about it, but it would also help hold your stencil in place if your stencils were not adhesive. Next, you're going to need a little scrap piece of wood. So it can be big or small. You just need something, a little piece of wood that you're not afraid to get dirty. And you want to make sure that it has a flat edge. We are going to use this itty bitty piece of wood to distress our whole project. It'll be like magic. I can't wait for you guys to see that. And then you'll need a flat brush to, of course, paint your sign, and a stencil brush. So I like to work with a stencil brush sometimes. We also have a lot of great tools at Michael's in our Sign Shop line to apply your stencil paste or your FolkArt paint to your stencil. So it's really up to you, whatever you prefer. You can use one of these swiper tools, or you can use a stencil brush. Whatever you feel most comfortable with will work great. All right, you guys. And if you've ever joined a Plaid Craft class before, then you know that we like to have a hairbrush nearby just to keep things going. So I have that with me today as well. So let's go ahead and get started by base coating our wood surface with our orange color. So we're not going to be worried too much about getting it directly to all the sides, because as you can see here, we're going to have this black rim, and this actually is framed and it's dimensional like that, you know. It comes in with the built-in frame, but this does not. So we're going to make our own frame. So you don't have to worry about getting the edges with black. We're just going to get you know, pretty close to the edge and then stop.
Emma, I just wanted to jump in and say that the distressing technique with the little wood block is so cool to me, and it like blew my mind the first time that I saw it done, because it just makes it look so like genuinely like distressed, and it just looks so good. So I'm excited for you guys to see that too.
You know, everyone is starting to go ahead and start crafting all of their fall home decor. And I feel like distressing is definitely a technique that you need to pick up if you haven't already, to really add the, you know, it can be creepy, it can be, you know, sweet and farmhousey, whatever it is. Distressing with a wood block is definitely a technique that is good to just know.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, and we don't want a super thick coat. We just want a, you know, thin, even coat of our orange. I feel like when we base coat large surfaces like this on our classes, it definitely is probably the least interesting part of the class, but it's the most necessary part of the class.
I don't know. It's pretty relaxing in a way, you know?
Yeah.
Somebody just jumped in and said that they do love this brush and it is really relaxing. So hope you guys are feeling some of that. Yeah.
Sometimes I get nervous when I base coat for so long, like, I hope everyone's enjoying the class.
And Emma, it might be a good idea one more time just to go over the colors that you're using, just in case anybody may have missed that.
Absolutely. So today for this class, all you need is a FolkArt orange, a FolkArt white, and a FolkArt black. I'm not sure if we were totally specific on what exact colors you should have, but as long as you have an orange, a black, and a white, you will be good to craft along with me today.
Awesome.
And
Thanks,
of course, our favorite acrylic paint is FolkArt paint. It is so rich and creamy, and it's just a lovely paint to work with. But if you don't have that, of course, you know, whatever you have will work just fine. Okay, a little bit more paint on our palette. And this would be really fun too, not even to do with not only orange, but any of your favorite fall colors. If you wanted to do like a turquoise or a mustard, that would be really pretty too. I didn't even realize it today, but I kind of am wearing some fall colors with my, what would you call this? Like, I guess maybe it's a little bit more chartreuse than mustard, but I feel very fall-ish today. And I did see that question. I'm just using a 1-inch flat brush. Whatever kind of flat brush you have will work just great. Almost done, you guys. So if you were painting it on this surface, then I would just try to be careful of when you're adding your black to keep that straight edge that the frame provides you. Or if you were really nervous about it, I would recommend using some stencil tape so you can peel it off at the end.
And Emma, somebody just asked a question. Could you use a foam brush?
Yeah, absolutely. A foam brush would work great for this. We're just base coating, so foam brush would work great for this. Okay, I think we're good, you guys. That's kind of cute too. You could just leave it like that and maybe distress it a little bit. But we're going to go ahead and lock this in place by blow drying it so we can move on. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and add our black border. So what we're going to do is we're going to, of course, grab our stencil tape.
And Emma, real quick, could you talk a little bit about the board that you're using? Because there's a couple of questions about the dimensions of the wood. And I was wondering if you could speak on that.
So I think this looks to be about maybe 8 inches long and about 2 feet wide. And they have this surface at Michael's. Pretty sure it's an Art Mind surface. And then this is just a plain wood palette.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna mark off how long we need our stencil tape to be, and we are gonna wanna have a straight edge. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut off with our scissors, just get it as straight as you can. And we are going to place that down. So we want about, what is that? Let's say like 3/4 of an inch of a border around our orange. So we're gonna lay that nice and flat. Make sure it's flush to your surface so that it actually does stand in the way of the black paint. Oops. Cut it again to get another straight edge. We're going to overlay it on here. And make sure it's really flush. Just trimming this up, making sure that our lines are really straight. And I'm really just eyeballing how long I want, or really I should say how wide I want my border to be. There's no need to measure it with a ruler or anything. So I saw there, my tape line was a little bit too long. So I'm just going to trim it. I always like to say too, feel free to move your surface around and make it comfortable for you. Don't feel like your surface needs to stay stationary if that's not the most comfortable thing. That's not straight. The best part about using, like we said, the low-tech adhesive tape is that we can always remove it and rearrange it if we need to. And really only one side of your tape needs to be straight. So if this is straight, we can just piggyback off of this one. We don't have to cut that straight edge. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Oops. Okay, so whenever I put tape like this down before I start painting around it, I just want to make sure that it is super flush to the surface. And I just do that by going along and running my fingers across all the different sections of tape, just to make sure that it really is on there and there's no spaces where the paint can seep through. Okay, so bring back our palette, and now we're going to introduce some black to our palette. Okay. So this is a great little technique to do to add a faux frame to really any of your crafts. You can do it on a stretched canvas. You can do it on like maybe a circular surface. That would be super cute. I would love to know in the comments, you guys, if you at home have ever used our FolkArt Sign Shop stencils before and what you think of them. Okay, make sure it's nice and even. Now, for the most satisfying part, removing the tape. Ta-da! Beautiful. Now that we have that faux frame, it really is starting to come to life. And this is going to be a lot shorter than the orange, but I am going to hit it with a blow dryer because knowing myself, I'm going to lean forward and get black all over my sweater. So this will take 2 seconds. Alrighty, now for the fun part, you guys. Let's go ahead and start stenciling. So as you can see in our finished project here, we have 2 different fonts. And the great thing about FolkArt Sign Shop is there are a ton of different fonts for you guys to choose from, dozens of them that will match your own personal home decor. So you can mix and match like we did here, or you can choose your own font, whatever you want to do. But there will definitely be a font or really a stencil that you're going to love. I promise you that. So let's go ahead. And of course, for these larger sizes, they are 2 sheets. So it's 1 letter to represent each letter of the alphabet. And then you get some symbols as well. We have this cute exclamation point and a question mark and an, I guess you would call it a hashtag or a pound symbol. Okay, so let's go ahead and you do have to cut these, so you just want to cut out each individual letter. So we'll go ahead and start doing that. And like we said, they are adhesive, which is a great thing about this. Pumpkin, do they get every part of pumpkin? Also, you guys, let us know if you are crafting along with us today live, if you are just watching this to maybe do it later or decide if you want to follow along later when it's posted. I'd love to know that. And do we have any questions, Stephen?
Yeah, we actually do have one from Susan. They ask, to store the letters, do you place back on the backing that you took off? Like you said, it's adhesive. So
That's a great question. So I'm glad you asked that actually, because I hadn't mentioned that yet. These stencils, the best part, hello, is that they are reusable. So you can whip out a bunch of these signs and give them to your friends and neighbors. And yes, to answer your question, you would just soak them in water as soon as you're done using them, because you don't want the paint to dry inside of that mesh grid system. So you would just stick it in a bowl of water if you're not by a sink, run it under water if you are working by a sink. And then once you get all the paint out and then pat them dry, you can just go ahead and stick them right back on that backing and they will stay adhesive for dozens and dozens of times. Okay, let's spell this out to make sure we have it. Pumpkin.
yeah, as far as I can tell, Emma, it seems like we have a good bit of people crafting with us live and some people watching for later. So good mix.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. I love being here with you all and crafting with you. So something I like to do, it's totally not necessary, but I do like to trim my letters down just so that when I space them to see how I want them to lay flat, I want to get them very close together. Does that make sense? I feel like I just said a lot of things that don't make sense.
No, that made sense.
Okay, you see what I mean? So I'm just trimming that so that when I lay the U next to it, I can really butt them up close. So it'll look like how it's going to in the end. And a little tip too, I'm fortunate enough that I have 2 of these stencil packs. So I have 2 Ps, but I'm sure you don't have 2 Ps at home. So one thing that I like to do is I like to cut out a letter that is a similar size of the letter that I need to repeat, just to act as a space holder. So let's see, the P is about the same size as our E. So I would cut out the E and it would, spell pumpkin, and then I would just lay it out for the spacing and then remove the E and then replace it with the P once I'm done using the P the first time. Oh, why am I cutting the L? Going to the K. And once I've cut all my letters and I've used them a couple of times, I just like to have like a little storage bag that I like to keep all my cut letters in, just to make it easy, maybe a little tiny bin so that all my stencils are in one place and I don't lose them. This is certainly one of those crafts that there is some time that you have to spend just prepping for it, like base coating and cutting out your letters and spacing them all out. So I'm glad that a lot of people are crafting live with me and they can take their time and follow along. Okay, so let's go ahead and spell this one out. P-U-M-P-K-I-N, pumpkin. Okay, so we'll leave that there and let's go ahead and grab our other font. So we have this kind of Dido style font. I love this font. This is probably one of the stencils that I use the most often. It's great for home decor. And the great thing about these alphabet packs is that you can customize your sign to say whatever you want. So you can include your family name and do a welcome sign. You can write trick or treat, or really the options are endless.
And I just want to let everybody know that there was some questions earlier about the wood surface that you're working on. So I went ahead and linked it to michaels.com in the chat for everybody to find.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen.
You're welcome.
Okay, CH, then we're done. If I make it through this whole craft without getting black paint on my sweater, it will have been a success.
If it were me up there, I would have had it on my shirt already before I even recognized it as a problem. So you're miles ahead of me.
You got to have a little bit of faith in yourself, Stephen. All right, you guys, so let's trim these down and then I'm going to share with you all a really great technique to get your stencil placement really even.
Oh, here's a good question, Emma. This is from Carol. So if you wanted to add a fourth or a fifth color to fall crafting, what would you recommend?
Like in addition to the white, orange, and ooh, that's a great question. Like we said, I love to like an addition of like a mustard, kind of similar to the color I'm wearing now. If you wanted to take it in a little bit more of a whimsical direction, maybe like a eggplant purple or like a lavender, that would be really cute. Even gray, if you want to keep it a little bit more simple and modern, that would be cute and kind of keep it in a monochromatic palette and just that pop of orange. Gosh, there's so many different ideas. And Michaels, their social media, they have really great inspiration on Instagram and all of their different social media channels of fall and Halloween home decor. And of course, Plaid Crafts does as well. So make sure to check out both Michaels and Plaid Crafts on social media for some upcoming fall inspiration.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a great question, Carol.
Yeah, I love that question. Okay, so here is where I'm going to show you guys the technique. Why do I have this B? Oh, well. So what I like to do to keep my stencils really even, if you have stenciled before, then you may have noticed that a lot of times these stencils are not the same height. So as you can see here, like we have the J and the, maybe that's not a great example. But if we were to use, which way does this go? If we were to use like the Q and the S and the W, they're not going to all be the same height. So you can't always space them evenly by the height of the stencil itself, you have to actually measure it by the height of the actual letter that is inside the stencil. So I'm going to show you guys a tip to do that. So if we wanted our letters to start right about here, then that's where our tape is going to end. So let's be mindful of that and place a strip of tape down. Okay, so now that our strip of tape is even, that's going to act as our placeholder. So go ahead and grab the font that you're going to use for pumpkin. And we're going to go ahead and remove our stencil from its backing. And if you guys can see, it's clear, it's see-through, even though it has this really super fine mesh system. We are going to kind of hover over our tape. And so that way we can see the tape through. Can you guys see that all right?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to lower it just until you can't see the tape anymore. And go ahead and stick it down. Okay, so this way we are going to keep it in a straight line using the tape as our guide. So let's do that again with our U. So we're going to place it right up against our P, and that's why we trimmed it. And we are going to lower it down until we cannot see our tape anymore. And then go ahead and stick it down. Isn't that a cool tip? A cool tip?
I wouldn't have thought of that, but I think that would work really well.
Yeah. That way you just can't mess up. Once you get that tape even, everything else is going to be even as well. So level it, and then as soon as you can't see that blue tape, stick it down. I like to use a different technique when I am using stencils that don't have this super awesome grid system, but it involves actually tracing your stencil on a sheet of paper, which of course you can't do with the grid mesh system because your stencil wouldn't go through, or your pencil wouldn't go through it. Okay, so like I said in the beginning, I'm going to use my stencil brush today, but you can use whatever sign shop tool you want to use, a stencil brush, a flat brush, any of those will work great. So let's introduce our white to our palette. And the great thing about these mesh stencils, like we talked about in the beginning, is you don't have to be quite as careful while you're stenciling. You can be a little bit more generous with your paint application, all of that good stuff. So it's another reason why I love these stencils so much. You don't quite need to offload as much paint as you would with a traditional stencil. So let's go ahead and grab our white. I'm going to offload just a tiny bit. And for this kind of stencil, you can dab it, you can swirl it, whatever you feel comfortable with. And you know what, you guys, I'm going to tape this off right here, just so, because I know myself and I know I'm going to get it over that really thin edge that I left for myself. Okay, so let's go ahead and start stenciling. And you just want to be mindful, if you guys have never used our FolkArt sign shop before, you want to be fairly quick with the application of your paint because you do want to get these stencils in a tub of water or ran under sink just as quickly as you can, because you don't want the paint to dry inside those stencils. because it's going to create little blockages in that grid system and leave you with some holes the next time you stencil. So you don't need to be crazy about it. You don't need to make yourself worry too much, but it's just a good thing to be mindful of whenever you're using these stencils. So like you can tap like I was doing, you can swirl like I'm doing now. Okay, now for the big reveal. Ta-da! And you get these really, really clean lines. Oh, and I can't believe I forgot to mention this too, you guys. The great thing about these, there's so many great things, but another great thing about these stencils is that there are no breaks in your stencils. So you can have really intricate and elaborate designs that stay really, really clean, and you don't have to touch them up in the end because there are just no breaks. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about, you see this A here. Normally there would be a little space of orange because you need something to connect the inner piece of the A to the outside of the stencil. But with this mesh stencil, you don't have to worry about that. There are no breaks. You get really intricate, clean designs each and every time. Okay, so we can remove our tape now and start stenciling our patch. So we're going to do the same thing we did with the pumpkin. Firstly, I'm going to hit it with a blow dryer though. Okay, so now that this is dry, just tapping it to make sure, we are going to lay down our strip of tape again, right above where we would want our patch to lay. So let's actually grab one of these stencils and make sure that it is the right height that we want it. Maybe we'll lower it just a touch. All right, perfect. So you can kind of see here, we started the second word right about where the M ended. But if you're doing a different phrase, then something that I always like to do is I like to find the letter that's going to fall in the middle of my phrase. And I like to place that down first, right in the center. And that way I can work off of the center and it'll always be centered.
So Emma, here's a question for you. Will that orange color dry like the sample above, or is it a slightly different color shade?
You know what? I think this is slightly different. This is a lighter orange, but this is a darker orange. You can use whatever orange you have. If you wanted to achieve something more like this and you have, what we're working with today, then I would add a touch of white and yellow. If you wanted something more similar to what we're doing today, I would add a touch of red. Because this orange that we are using today, this is totally dry. But that's a great question. Here we go. I don't know why that one was so tricky for me. And if you didn't have any stencil tape at home, a ruler and a pencil line would work just as well. And then you can erase it or touch it up with your orange afterwards.
It's a good suggestion.
Yeah. Let's add a touch more white to our palette, and then we'll go ahead and stencil our second word. Oh, I'm running out of my titanium white. Okay. Better safe than sorry, right, guys? This goes out to all the messy crafters out there. Sometimes if I'm in a pinch, I'll use my finger as a piece of stencil tape, but don't do that. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, now we're going to take our stencils and tape off. Beautiful. Gosh, I love these stencils. Okay. Look how cute.
Looks great, Emma.
Thanks. Okay, you guys, now for the part I know you've all been waiting for, we are going to learn a new distressing technique. Okay. Oh, gosh, I just got water all over that. That's okay. So we are going to dry our brush. And let's grab our little scrap piece of wood. So with our white and our black that we already have on our palette, what should we do first? Let's do black first. We're going to grab our little block of wood and we're just going to apply some black to it. Okay. And now we are going to offload some of that paint onto a paper towel. Just tap it down. We don't want that much paint on it. Okay. And now what we're going to do is we are going to drag the little block of wood onto our surface, kind of picking up and, dropping down as we go. And something I just like to be mindful of whenever I'm doing this technique is I like to think of all the areas in the project where it would make sense for it to be distressed. So maybe the corners from like some weather damage or it being, knocked around, whatever you think. I just like to be mindful of that so that it looks, realistic and like it really is distressed and older.
Okay, here's a question from Kelly. If we wanted to use the sign for outside, would you need any kind of sealer for it?
That's a great question. So we are just using regular FolkArt acrylic today. But if you wanted to switch it up and use FolkArt multi-surface, that would be a great option because that is indoor and outdoor. But if you just had acrylic paint on hand, then I would recommend sealing it with some Podge Ultra. That is a great sealer to use for really any type of art, craft or art. and it's indoor outdoor, and it's water resistant along with weather resistant. So you don't have to worry about it getting, withering in the sun or, getting a little bit of water on it. So yeah, Mod Podge Ultra, or maybe starting with some FolkArt multi-surface. Great question. Okay, so now that we have our middle black part done, let's go ahead and get some white distressing on our frame. So we're going to flip to a different side of our wood block, and we're going to dip it in our white, and then offload it again onto our paper towel. And so this is really what I was talking about when I said that I like to be mindful about where I would actually look weathered and distressed. So we're going to apply a good bit of paint to our corners. So I usually like to start there whenever I'm distressing, and just apply more paint as you need it. Okay, and so now that we have quite a bit on our corners, we can go ahead and do the rest of the frame. So I like to really get my edges.
So Emma, Laura says that her phone cut out and I think she may have missed something. She asked, what did you use to make the black technique? And Laura, if you're talking about the distress look, Emma just used the same technique that she's doing now with the white, but she used black paint rather than white and just went over the orange parts.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Stephen. So I'm just using a little scrap piece of wood that I'm not afraid to get a little bit dirty. I'm applying paint to one, might want to make sure that it's flat, to one side of it. And then I am kind of dragging it across my surface and kind of picking up and bringing back down. And it's creating this weathered, distressed look. All you need is paint and a scrap piece of wood. And then you're left with something like this. How cute, you guys.
I love that.
Thanks. All righty. So I think we are finished. I hope you guys enjoyed this class today. I know I enjoyed being here with you all and crafting with you guys. Like Kelly said in the beginning, this class is being recorded. So in about 24 to 48 hours, if you missed something or you want to watch it again, it'll be on Michael's webpage and on their YouTube channel. Like always, we want to give a big thank you to Michael's for allowing us to be here with you all and crafting and making with you all. And we will catch you next time. Bye, guys.
Hey, Emma, one real quick before we go. I have
Sure.
one more question for you. You instead of a piece of wood to distress, could you cut off a piece of sponge?
You know what? I do prefer a hard surface. So any type of flat, hard surface you have, I would recommend that instead. Maybe even if it's like, a piece of a pencil or something that you just kind of use one of the faceted flat sides of, I would recommend something hard for sure. But that is a clever idea to use the sponge. But yeah, I guess with that, you guys, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.